This is episode 7 of Talking Business here at Best Practice. Nick Fagan stops by.
Well.
How are you?
Well, mate. How
Absolutely
are you?
fantastic. And what are we here to talk about?
You better share the news, mate. Share the news.
We are talking about next practice. We are curating the people that talk about leadership. They talk about strategy, we talk innovation, we talk creativity, we talk big ideas. They're here to help you. This is Talking Business.
I've been stinging to get in here to have a conversation with you. I've seen a lot of these clips and they're just outstanding. Great conversations, mate. Lots has been happening. As you know, this company, particularly Best Practice, the evolution of the company has been fantastic. Yeah. I guess for me, it's just now looking at this new brand. It's been in itself an evolution, but a few learnings from Best Practice that have led us this way, in this direction, and a fantastic opportunity, which I'd like to thank you for, taking it on.
It's a joint venture.
There you go.
From a career perspective, I think it's important to talk to, your career journey.
Sure.
But starting with your qualifications. What are you qualified as?
My qualifications, I have a Bachelor of Human Movement and a Diploma in Education.
There you go.
After that I did some more study, which, I wonder if it was worth it. I don't know, but it was in risk management, it was in safety science, which was fantastic because it opened up different avenues and sort of led me pretty much to sort of work with you,
absolutely.
12, 15 years ago.
Longer.
Yeah, longer. So I'm a qualified teacher.
Ta-da!
Funny, and I guess
So
the tagline, is empowering improvement, and I mean that from a business sense, but also an individual sense. And for me, I guess my pulse is empowering people because I get the greatest satisfaction. It's the old adage, but when the penny drops and someone gets it, and they take it and own it themselves, I mean that's a great sense of satisfaction. That's basically my motivation, and I'm a helper too, and I speak acts of service. And I guess in that exchange, and there may be a commercial exchange there, but there's great benefit.
Absolutely.
And by that guided conversation, in teaching we call it a curriculum. Here we call it a standard. It's almost that blueprint that you teach to. So it's about breaking that down so a person will understand it and own it.
Yeah. We have here at Best Practice tried a couple of different management systems, and what we've realised is we've come back to the shit we sell. And,
funny that.
And that's what Next Practice is all about. We've gone, okay, well, we have our own ISO standard and we assess ISO standards. And when you look at the significant change to the ISO standard for quality, the ISO 9001 standard, it's got a really great logical framework. And so, sitting in my office, 20 minutes ago, talking about following that framework, that's been the biggest gap. So, going back to our core values of who we are as a business and what we do, and eating our own shit, basically. So
Some would say that. Some would say practice what you preach.
Practice what we preach, right? Yeah. So, but for you guys out there, it's like we've got it. All jokes aside, I don't mean to cuss on YouTube, but we're asking you to eat shit, right? We should eat it too. So, but no, all jokes aside is. The new ISO standard is absolutely fantastic. Yes. We have found a challenge in our own business that in terms of staff engagement in understanding the standard, getting buy-in, and more importantly from an executive level, linking the business plan to the ISO
You got it.
standard.
Now that is so typical, and that's what I'm finding at the minute. Trying to have leaders understand why they would have a business plan driving a management system.
Yeah.
To us it seems so logical. But the fact is, if there's no direction, no leadership, and that guidance for the management system, why have one?
Yeah.
And one of the best things that I've picked up along the journey as an assessor. We had a group of assessors together a couple of years ago. Yeah. What is a management system? What could a management system be? It could be anything, as long as it's delivering on the objectives and targets of the organisation and exchange with the owner or founder. I'm still finding there's that linkage that's missing. And I think what we spoke about 20 minutes ago was simple. Pull out the headings of the standard, a bit of reflective questioning and understanding what they mean in the context of a business, it becomes clear. So thanks for that.
Yeah. So if we use the standard, and that's ultimately what Next Practice, our vision in terms of what it is going into this is What are the, if you're using the standard, so we're talking about business plan and standard, right?
Yeah.
So just so everyone's clear out there, the business plan here at Best Practice is driven by the ISO management system, and it's a clear connection. It's absolutely dovetailed together. So the management objectives and targets and goals and all those sorts of things that are documented in our business plan draw straight from our ISO management system. So that's what we're talking about. So that ISO management system, which is, to cut to the chase here that we're talking about, what are the sorts of things that it drives in the business? What would you say would be the 6 or 8 things that, or 4 things that an ISO system, when it's linked, strategically linked and absolutely bolted to the business plan, what does that deliver for a business?
Well, think about it in our terms, as in, I'm a practitioner for Next Practice. I'm talking to a business owner. I would simply start with what is the vision as the founder. In fact, I'd go back a step and say, why?
Yeah.
What gets you up every morning? What drives you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, and that's fantastic to have that understanding and motivation. What are the processes and systems that can help you realise your vision?
Yeah.
So if we go from the top of the standard, and I suppose the leadership piece, which is around our mission, why we do what we do, just explaining or describing that'd be first cab off the rank. Because then, okay, things then fall out of that conversation quite clearly. The next part, and I'm just going to go back to weaknesses here and things that we've picked up through our 1,100 continuous improvement projects with Best Practice,
That's a lot.
800 clients, hello out there,
Yep.
thank you,
Yep.
is that linkage then moves into that planning phase. And in that planning phase, and I think you touched on it last week when we had the group message, was that there's risk, there's the component of risk. And in that recipe, if you like, for risk, there's things to consider, like who are the people that are interested in our business? Who are we trying to supply? Who are we trying to deliver to? What do they want? How are we measuring that? Oh, okay, then out of that discussion, a plan, funny enough, a plan starts to form. Then, outside of that, what is the plan? This is where we're going. Next question, how are we going to get there? Well, let's set some targets and objectives, and then let's have some processes to get there. It's not that hard. And would you say that's pretty much a blueprint for business?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So execution. Absolutely. Execution strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess then if you want to dig deeper, then I think it goes back to that point about having the right people and the resources which are embedded in the standard. You need that as the mechanism for delivery. So getting back to the challenge question, it's about the people, the process, the recipe. So, I guess that's the key. And they're the things that I'm seeing. And I guess if you ask any of our assessors, and I say our collectively, they would say much the same in terms of where the weaknesses are. Possibly in the leadership, definitely in the planning, monitoring and measurement of those things. But how do we know we're delivering what we say we're going to deliver? How do we know those things? And I guess it's preaching to the converted, and I think a lot of people understand that. But, when it comes to that business planning side of things, it may be the case where intuitively people understand it, but the tangibles as to how to, not often easy to put into practice. And I guess that's the evolution we're talking about for Best Practice. Now we have that vehicle. And for Next Practice, it's really tapping into a founder's or a management team's thoughts around that, unpacking it, getting back to the basic questions, really. Then as a practitioner, the other takes shape, in terms of policy, procedure, description of how we do things. That could be anything. We just said the management system can be anything. So, I think that's the essence of what I'm trying to pick up. And anything to add?
Yeah, well, look, I think the results speak for themselves. So with the work that we've done to get really clear on the link between our business plan and our ISO management system and our quality management system here at Best Practice, is the results we're getting is top line revenue growth, quite significant in terms of numbers. We're getting better engagement of our staff, executive development. So from our system, and we're now getting accelerated executive development. So the different managers. So we've got a marketing manager, a sales manager, finance manager, delivery manager, quality manager, myself as the CEO, Nick now heading up another growing team, which is part of the group of companies. And so those executives are growing faster than just organically figuring things out. So our company is now worth more in terms of its share price. So as an owner and shareholder, that's a really important issue. The bottom line's growing. And so because the top line's been growing and we're getting really structured on cost management and cost control through more efficient, more effective and more skilled staff, it's all sort of starting to roll out. So for the people out there that are looking for revenue growth, for profit growth, for cost management, for efficiency, for clear process, staff development, staff engagement and reduced turnover, there are other benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening here at Best Practice.
Fantastic.
So all those things, you're welcome to come in here to our office and meet with me, and I'll show you the numbers on paper. Like Nick's seen them, he's seen what's happening, he's seen in terms of numbers, but that's the results of this hard work. So we've gone, okay, well, hang on a minute, that's an issue for all of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And underpinning that, and that's certainly the macro level, the overview of the organisation, but if you come to Best Practice, any of our offices and look on the wall, you'll see our statistics, which we measure weekly.
That's right.
So for those who'd be interested could understand how in fact we drive the business. What are the cogs? What are the cogs? And then simply saying, well, what are you doing to drive those cogs?
Yeah.
Go and have a look.
Any of
As
our
you say,
offices,
any of the departments, go and see what the plans are.
Yeah.
So those cascading messages, I think certainly there's traction.
Yeah, any of our offices, our stats, they're up on the wall. They report, we talk about it in all of our videos, but they're up on the wall. There's 30 graphs. You know, Jack, you get to see them every Monday when they go up, and it's absolutely 100% transparent. So for those of you out there that are not running a transparent system in terms of your numbers, now that's our quality system spitting out monitoring measurement. So, questions? Because you know there's some curly ones coming. And this is all about talking business. This is you, well, whatever. This is where we go. But one of the questions I love about talking business is what advice would you give to your 30-year-old self?
That's a really good question. Why wait?
Yep.
It'll be okay.
Why wait? It'll be okay.
Consistent theme, I think, Jack, with...
Yeah, what are you hearing?
Oh, yeah, it's just
seeing
get stuck in, is
Yes.
a lot of people saying.
Why
Just get
wait?
stuck in, yeah.
You know, for me, and I guess traditionally it's been an anxiety-based thing, what if? But, you know, like I guess with that maturity comes the benefit of knowledge, and that knowledge gives you confidence. And tell me if self-awareness and self-confidence isn't the magic bullet to push you in a direction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just important to have that, and that faith in yourself. So at 30, I mean, it's probably a fork in the road.
And
so
at that age,
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great because you know the meandering course, which is life. I mean, at that point, it's critical, and I think that you know I could be in a different situation had the choices been made back then, but there was something holding me back. Why hold back? You know.
Yeah, and I hear it a lot. Like I hear, I don't know what to do, don't know what I want to do, don't know what I want to do. But the resilience you've got between 20 and 30 is greater than the resilience between 30 and 40 and so on, you know, because you've got more to lose.
Yeah.
You get further down the track, you've got more to lose. So, well, you got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the common thing.
I think that's a big part of my learning too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So,
You know, sort of the next part of the segment that we talk about with best practice, you start to say, well, if you were to do a case study, because doing a live case study on us right here, right now is a good way to present to people. So yes, it's conversational and we can't sort of, you know, we haven't got a whiteboard right now to throw stuff up. But if you were to take a little run a bit of an exercise on us here at Best Practice in terms of what, you know, demonstrating sort of what we're doing with Next Practice, what advice have you got for Best Practice? Or some reflective questioning?
Yeah, look, if you don't mind, I think
No,
that's
that's
a really good way, because that is effectively the essence of Next Practice is unpacking an organisation with these sort of questions. And I'll go back to the original question, which is why. You can quite clearly say, if you look at your personal brand and your heart-led best self, which I'm sure you have a demo there.
Right, no, not that, it's a missed call. Why am I getting missed call?
Yeah, so your pulse, but what is your pulse?
Yeah, that was that. My pulse, well, why I get out of bed in the morning is to unleash potential.
Right.
In myself and anyone around me and the business and anything I touch.
Yep. So, in fact, that's a great point. You've got to start with yourself because you become the inspiration.
Correct.
You know, you can probably see that in our social media audience with our staff. It's clear that to you what you're trying to do. Outside of that, and I guess your heart-led best self, you're thinking to yourself, well, why? And then extending that to the groups is why are we here? And what would underpin best practice? Why is best practice in existence?
Oh, it's really strange, right? I love business. And business is a machine, obviously, to achieve lots and lots of different outcomes. You can see people, it's obviously for the staff, it's somewhere to come and work and earn money to fund their holidays. And, Flavia's just been off to her holiday to Bali and had a great time, had a week off, to explore those passions. Jack's doing his thing, he's here to learn. And, myself, it's here to support my lifestyle, in my life, I guess, and my family. And so, so I love business, and I don't get that from being an employee. And I've been an employee, not a very good one, because I'm not very good at taking orders. And I really struggled with people that I worked for in the past not seeing that the sky's the limit. Like being in a business and just being really frustrated that people were deliberately holding the business back when it could have clearly flourished. And so I bounced around working under people that I was just really frustrated. It's like, what? This person's sitting on an absolute gold mine. I can do a couple of little things that's going to significantly change revenue or profit or services or customer experience or any of that sort of stuff, but they're not letting me do it because there's no logical reason. It's 100% logic. If you let me do this thing, I'm going to more than pay my own salary. I'm going to bring in heaps more money for the business, and I'm just being stopped and I don't understand the reason. So,
yeah, I think the key drivers, and if you just unpack that a little bit more, I think there's three key ingredients here. I think you touched on mission,
Absolutely. Yep.
vision,
Yep.
and values.
Absolutely.
So what are those values? What are those cornerstones?
Well,
part of this process we've been through that you've taken us through here at Best Practice is to unpack our 5 values. So you take my best self-identity being why I get out of bed in the morning to unleash potential, and then you overlay that with our values. So, it's about empowering people, and that's fundamentally where Next Practice is going. It's around giving people the skills and knowledge and abilities to do it themselves.
I think that's my pulse.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to steal your thunder, but so empowerment. So, and I'll ask you a question about that in a second.
Sure.
Being progressive. So, and that's reminding us to be progressive. So when we get a little like a signal that something's going to work, it's like go in. Like if the signals are there and our intuition is that this is going to work, go all in. Not just stand back and dance around the sides. Now, value number 2 is about being progressive, friendliness. Yeah. I've always been a campaigner for manners in business, just please and thank you. And like people don't give a shit if you like swear and carry on, but it's about the true heart in terms of giving value in terms of business and being focused on, particularly in this industry, we're working with people's babies. Like people, their whole life is invested in these businesses that they struggle to keep afloat and not go broke. And we're doing heart surgery on them when we're going and doing a best practice assessment.
Treat me with care.
It's exactly right. So that friendliness, manners, bedside manner. All that sits in friendliness. We talk about. Obviously, some of the other critical values, but particularly the hard work ethic. Yeah. And just being completely, absolutely aligned in terms of we're here to really help our clients and be focused. And so, I think, in terms of, in terms of that process, it's about, I've always worked very hard. I am a worker, and I work 7 days a week, and I'm always doing something that's a job of some sort, whether it's stuff around the house doing maintenance or whether it's on the business or whatever it might be. And then the last one is really the critical one that really is a necessity, I think, in this particular industry, which is around ethical behaviour.
Absolutely.
And ethics. And so really understanding, because we have to make a decision around certifying companies and helping companies and having the honest discussion. And so that ethics in business is a critical part. And I do see clients from time to time that we've worked with in the past that maybe not so ethical decision making around, let's take as much value out of our customers as possible, but don't think about that fair exchange piece. So, when your question was, like around, what my pulse is and all that sort of stuff around unleashing potential, but then you overlay those values, that really starts to frame up, well, we just ended up in a place where we give business advice and help people improve their businesses. It happens to be certification is the execution strategy.
The vehicle, absolutely.
So what is the very high level basic journey for anyone who's interested in reaching out to you?
Yeah.
what would be, over a calendar year, over a 12-month period, what would be the sorts of activities that they would expect you to facilitate for them?
Ideally, it's a really good question. I think based on our discussion this afternoon is more around the unpacking of a business, and that would be what we call a strategic or a risk workshop. A couple of days to sit down and work out a strategic direction for a business.
Yep.
Map that out, fill a risk register, and remembering risk is made up of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats.
Yep.
That's a really good conversation to have.
Yep.
Outside of that then is forming a plan. What are those things that we are delivering? How are we going to deliver them? How are we going to measure them? How are we going to monitor them? How are we going to improve them? And that can be tied to a similar cycle you mentioned about best practices cycle, is to have quarterly meetings to track how we are working toward those goals and how we can improve, again, against our scoreboard. So that initial part is setting up the scoreboard and what we will measure, then walking into a quarterly get-together, simply having a conversation, checking out one day a quarter. So it's a great investment in time to actually make sure that we are on course. So that's the basic model. In that, there's a couple of conversations to have. Again, we use, going back to those common headings in the standards, we might be using those as a bit of a guide through that. So nothing unknown, but a structured process whereby still tapping in to the vision, the mission, and the direction.
Absolutely.
And it's bringing it back to those basic points again. So that's the basic structure. Outside of that, in the future for next practice, and not to sort of steal your thunder, is how can we work with individuals within a business?
Absolutely.
And empower them. So there's no getting around it. That I'll keep going on about staff, but they are critical.
Absolutely.
So I think you made the point is that bringing people on board with that vision and mission and target. That's
ideal scene.
It is ideal scene talk, and that's
Scenario.
Sorry, yes, you correct yourself. That's great. The idea is to make sure that all is on board, and around the edges, we are a guest in an organisation, and therefore we're respectful of that organisation. We are simply looking to guide.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So, the context, and we'll start wrapping it up here, but it's next practice education, and it comes off, the really simple framework is, what Nick's just talked about, taking a teaching approach and a mentoring approach. We've seen too many of our clients buy consulting services and buy consultants and buy templates and buy processes, and it doesn't empower them to achieve their outcomes. And by and large, if you do a trends analysis across all of our assessments that we've talked about, if you read the article here on page 10 of Certified, in this quarter's edition of Certified, talks about that process. But too many of our clients. Now, the cool thing is you can basically Google all these documents. And so my crystal ball is that the consulting industry in that sense is just about dead, which is great because Jazzans will stop hassling us about, or hassling consultants about templates and processes. So really what we've observed is the really successful companies have had a coach partnering with them, and coaching them and empowering them and educating them. And so taking an educational role in unpacking this process and like putting up the mirror. So really we're mirror holders in this instance, using exactly the same skills. So it's really cool because if you're not sitting in, when you're sitting with Nick, and I have done this because I've experienced this process, when I'm sitting with Nick, I'm not being assessed and I'm not worried about passing an audit. I'm being assessed and coached around questioning to really challenge my thinking, really challenge my strategy, and really challenge my approach, and then get really clear and focused on what my objectives are. And I guess that's the ultimate outcome. And so really having next practice facilitate that for you. So, if you're really struggling to get the close connection of your management system with your business plan, then, get Nick in for the risk workshop, because he'll facilitate it, just ask the questions. You choose how you're going to document it. You choose how you're going to use it. You choose your controls, but he can ask questions. And he's going to ask some of those targeted questions and lead the witness, if you like, which is part of that process. And we've really loved it. It's been fantastic. We've never had better alignment of our management team. We've never had better results. we've never had periods of greater growth. And so I think, you know, I'm grateful for that.
Thank
you know, to come to this journey, and equally excited to share it with everybody out there. So,
Fantastic.
question for you, or more importantly, question for our audience. So anyone out there watching, because the last couple of Talking Businesses, we've had some good responses from you guys out there. So comment on the video below, or send in a message, or email Nick. Certified has been loaded to our website. You can get a soft copy of it now. If you go across to the Best Practice Training Academy, you can download a copy of this and then read the article. A beautiful PDF document that you can download there from our website. Pop in your details.
Fantastic production.
Fantastic. So for you, these guys are your consultants now. What's a challenge for you that they can help with? What's some insights and information you want from those guys that can help you run this business?
Yeah, I'm getting back to those basic principles, mate. And I think that if for them, I want to understand the why. Okay, that's what I need from them as a client. Is that the question you're asking? Is that what is it that they want to achieve? I mean, to come to a conversation saying we want templates, as has happened, is not the interesting conversation.
No.
What I need to understand is the why they're in business and what they're trying to do. Really, that's the basic starting of a conversation. Now, for instance, we might get an inquiry here at Best Practice. So I need templates for a tender. I need it done by a certain date. Well, that's fine and well, but my job, I think, is to go to that person, get to that motivation, and turn that around back to the things we were talking about today.
Absolutely.
That's all I need.
Yeah, with the right knowledge and skills, they can do it.
And the other thing I need is just a little bit of time. And that's where we have the questioning part of it. And yesterday I was at a client site, and just trying to educate us, and this is the education piece, can't help it, but it's just trying to get them to understand what they want from the business. And that is the business plan. They may not have a business plan. That's a good place to start. Well, why don't we start there? That article talks about the levers that they might use as the underpinnings for a business plan, as they could the ISO 9001 standard.
Absolutely.
And the heading. So
Too easy.
for me, and learning about the context of their business. Who's interested in their business? Who do they want in their business? What do they deliver? How do they deliver? When do they deliver? These are the basic questions. So it's me understanding context. That's what I need.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So anyone who wants to reach out to Nick and find out more about Next Practice and getting your leadership team, getting them aligned, having real clarity around your risk-based thinking, as the standards are talking about risk-based thinking. It's about helping you understand risk-based thinking. So it's around that empowerment piece, which is really, really exciting.
Yep.
So thanks, dude.
Hey, thank you. Been a pleasure.
This has been Talking Business, and if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're going to see us again next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.
Bye for now.